Hello and most welcome to 1893 of the H series. We will today continue with the article by Kelhoffer, the author of Authentication by Withstanding the Coming Great Tribulation in the Revelation of John. Last time we took a good look at seriousness that the monosemic take, the left hemisphere take on a text, it's often involves absolute seriousness. Possibly one could even call the monosemic take the serious take. I don't know if it's, yeah, it does feel rather apt. Too much seriousness, too much either or. It's a bit aggressive. Yeah. Yeah, I think, and it also rings with the discoveries of McGilchrist that the left hemisphere is aggressive, passively, and actively annoyed constantly. So seriousness, aggressiveness, lack of compassion, those things. The either or seem to be almost the same as being angry, unforgiving, fixed. And humor sort of diffuses that, makes it easier to live, and opens up to the gospel of God. The understanding of John is shut off, by the left hemisphere, and we go into the either or and the a priori. There is no longer an understanding of the text. It stopped to speak to us. We become stiff-necked, humorless and stiff-necked. There is then no spirit, no God. And I would say, I'm going out on a limb here, but the atheists, there are only humoresque at the beginning. Take, for instance, Richard Dawkins, but he often go into aggression, being sharp, screamy. Is this either or? And this is also how I remember the Lutheran tradition. It changed loving, humoresque understanding into something too serious, too deadened. Wittgenstein, Derrida opens up the text. Humor is allowed to enter. We can laugh once more, and we can be at ease in our lives. So humor might be the most serious thing overall. It's not a joking matter with humor. Now here, maybe we're a bit in line with John Cleese and the movement against woke, too serious movement, WOKE. I think even McGilchrist had some points in that debate going on. I wouldn't like to connect this to that, but there are some, definitely are some similarities here. And as we mentioned before, humor is the criterion. We start to go at ease when we leave our, so to say, disclosed boxes or our brains in the vat, when we do not enter into the outside. We are stiff. It's what we learn from the Alexander technique. Open up to the outside. Your voice will change. You will have more presence. You will feel more at ease. Not as fixed in the body positions, in the joints. By the way, something that in the end will hurt you. So add a bit of humor and it will be shining forth. And I will continue. I'm presently at page 169. First paragraph beginning with a resounding this. This point about the anticipated judgment may be brought into sharper focus with reference to John's other two lists of humanity's sins. According to Revelation 21, 7-8, only the one who conquers, or Nikon, will inherit a place in the new Jerusalem. Likewise at 22:14-15. Only those who wash their robes will have the right to the tree of life and to enter the new city. All evildoers will remain outside. This subsection analysis of Revelation 9:20-21 and 21-8 and 22:15 in relation to 2:14-20 supports the conclusion that part of John's overarching message in Revelation engages in a debate about where to mark the boundary between the Christian community and the pagan world. Pagan world. It's sharp, it should be. Sharp as a knife. As compared with his heretical opponents, John advocates a more restrictive definition of the redeemed community and consigns his opponents Balaam and Jezebel, along with the followers, to the same fate as awaits the non-Christian world. The non-Christian world. For John, patience amidst suffering will distinguish the true Christian. But idolatrous sin condemns heretical prophets along with the rest of pagan humanity. The extraordinary power, endurance, and vindication of the two witnesses, 11:1-13. In Revelation 11:1-13, the two witnesses offer an additional example of the testimony, endurance, and divine vindication that John expects for God's faithful servants. Like John himself, these two people function as prophets, propheteo, and like both Jesus and Antipas, they receive the designation martyrs. Inasmuch as they give testimony that additionally leads to their death. Vengeance proceeds directly from them against anyone who wishes to harm them. As with the first 6 trumpets, they bring judgments against the earth. Almost out of nowhere, the beast suddenly comes and kills them leaving their bodies free of days. This is said to take place in Jerusalem, where Jesus was crucified. Although 11:9 to 10 suggests a more general location. As in Revelation 6:9 to 17 and 8:3 to 5. Vindication follows the persecution of the saints, on this occasion with a resurrection and ascension to heaven. Likewise, once again, vengeance arrives in the form of a great earthquake. Roar. In contrast to Revelation 6:15, 17, 9:20 to 21, 16, 8 to 11, and 16:21. At Revelation 11:13d, John seems to anticipate a conversion of some people as a result of the earthquake. Scholars have proposed a range of proposals for the identity of the two witnesses. It seems implausible, though, that the witnesses can be concretely identified with the two particular Old Testament characters, for example, Moses, Enoch, or Elijah, or with early Christian figures, for example, John the Baptist and Jesus, or Peter and Paul. And Paul. Instead, Orn argues persuasively for interpreting symbolically as representing the witness of the God of the people of God in a godless world, and that they, like their Lord, will ultimately triumph over suffering and death. Completing the characterization of the praying martyrs and the praying saints on earth, Revelation 11:1 to 13 further exemplifies that Christians witness and resistance will be rewarded with both vindication of the faithful and vengeance against God's enemies. As such, we see another example of how John assigns value to anticipated suffering, given in order to elicit from the faithful a devout response to his message. Five, the inevitability of suffering of being compared 13:7 to 10, and of vindication 15:2 to 4 and 17:14. At numerous points, the author of Revelation offers conditional promises to the person who conquers Nikao and who remains faithful to the end. As discussed above. These formulations stand in contrast to the Johannine declaration that every believer conquers, or indeed has already conquered. The import of these passages in Revelation is that whereas Jesus has already conquered Idion, Eisten, or Leon, and will conquer again, Niktise, Aftos, the saints must strive to conquer and thereby attain salvation. The previous section discussed an exception to this conquering motif in 11:7, where the beast conquers and kills. The two witnesses, Niktise Aftos ke Apokteni Aftos, prior to their resurrection, ascension, and vindication, 3 and 1.5 days later. The reader is largely unprepared. However, for Revelation 13:7 7 to 10, in which the saints are conquered, but not vindicated. Also it, the beast, compare 13:14, was allowed to make war on the saints and to conquer them. Niktise aftos, it was given authority over every tribe and people and language and nation, and all the inhabitants of the earth will worship it. Everyone whose name has not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb that was slaughtered. Let anyone who has an ear listen. If you are destined to be taken captive, into captivity you go. If you kill with a sword, you must be killed.
Yeah.
This indicates that the endurance and faith of the saints are involved. Och det är stin på minke pistis ton agion. 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 The lack of vindication accorded to the conquered saints in 13:7 and 10 is particularly surprising when one considers that both 11:7 on the two witnesses and 13:7 allude to Dan 7:21, and that vindication is indicated in Daniel 7:11 and Rev 11 to 13, but not in Revelation 13:7 to 10. Complementing this pessimistic outlook is John's characterization of the other beast.
Oj, beast.
Beast. Which has power to cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. In Revelation 13:7-10, John clearly envisions a worldwide persecution of the Christians in which captivity, death, or both are a near certainty. Yet the divine passive reserves ultimate authority for God and acknowledges for the beast only a limited amount of time granted by God to conquer the saints.
Hallelujah.
The saints. Hallelujah. In the meantime, the Christian can take consolation in knowing that his or her name is written in the Lamb's book of life. Life. The apparent inevitability of death, or at least captivity, describes a situation in which patience and endurance ipomeni ki piotis, that John requires of all saints must be practiced. Indeed, in John's theology, such an endurance constitutes a crucial means by which one can corroborate one's standing. The vindication of the conquered saints, notably not narrated in Revelation 13, eventually comes into the picture of Revelation 15, which assumes for the saints redemption from the former dire situation.
Redemption.
Dire.
Redemption.
They are no longer conquered, but conquerors. John sees those who had conquered the beast and its image. Tos nikontas ekto thyrionke ektis ekonos afto, and the number of its name, standing beside a sea of glass, with harps of God in their hands. Their hands. And recounts the song of victory. As Gregory Fabile observes, they are able to participate in the Lamb's victory because of their enduring faith in the midst of persecution and the resistance to compromising their faith with the world. With the world out there beyond us. One could perhaps infer that in 13:7-10, John does not narrate his victory. I lost my trace here. Narrate the victory of the conquered saints, and that he assumes in later in order to highlight the victory of the conquering Christ in 17:14. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them. Nictisi aftus, for he is Lord of lords and Kings of kings, and those with him are called and chosen and faithful. Eclectique pisti. The description of saints as faithful.
All right.
recalls John's use of this term for Christ 1:5 and Antipas 2:17, who were faithful unto death. Taken together, 13:7 to 10. (15:2 to 4 and 17:14) offer complete assurance of victory for the saints, and even when disaster from persecution strikes, or when they are conquered by the beast. The beast. These assurances therefore strengthens John's argument that there is no excuse for not resisting in the way that the conquering Christ commands. Indeed, commands. Commands may be a good stopping point there. Yes, I do think so. So we have commands, page 173. Christ commands.
Christ commands. Christ commands. Conquering Christ commands with a nice alliteration. Conquering Christ commands. Conquering Christ commands.
Yeah, it's an alliteration.
Conquering Christ commands. Conquering Christ commands. Conquering Christ commands with a bad.
Yeah. That would indeed be apt. Let's have some look through here. Where we're at. Some fun read. Go to page 169, a bit back from where we are at. So first paragraph, we go down money line 3, 6, 7, 8. So there's an analysis going on here. It's the third over serious analysis, which makes it a bit left hemispheric. And of course, as we can see here, supports the conclusion that part of John's overarching message in Revelation engages in a debate about where to mark the boundary between the Christian community and pagan world. Here we see these sharp, distinct, knife-like, aggressive frontiers. That frontiers and borders already implicates aggression, anger, fight. Not peace, not understanding or compassion. The analysis itself is about the idea of taking apart, cutting up. We know the left hemisphere takes a segment of a text out of its complete context, its local reality, I would say. And I think my suggestion, the idea could be, you read the Bible bit by bit, and then you put those bits together to understand the meaning. So the Bible is no longer a whole. It's scribbles, disjunct ones, a bit like the body in misuse. The body no longer as one, it's bones, it's muscular system, and everything goes havoc. But I think it's the seriousness is also here, of course. You get angered, you need distinctions, you need absolute divisions. Conquer and divide, I think that's the saying in English. And it means that by making borders, you can make other people fight, thereby strengthening your own position. And we can also see in page 171. And we go down to go to the next page, please.
This is 171.
Okay, thank you very much. And we go down a bit under the subtitle 5, the inevitability of suffering. And on the 6th line, I think, the import of these passages in Revelation is that whereas Jesus has already conquered Idion, Eniki, Sen, Oleon, and will conquer again, Niktise, Aftos, the saints must strive to conquer and thereby attain salvation. It's ripped from its context. It's an atom of the Bible. And it's put under the microscope inspired by misconception what technology does. Actually, technology is never that local as Kelhoffer here exposes. Even when you put something under the microscope, it's in relation to all of biology or chemistry or physics, for that matter. Even in the classical. go to the next page. (172). It's a nice coincidence here. It's on the second paragraph and at the very end of the second paragraph. Last sentence. Indeed, in John's theology, he has a separate one from the Bible. Such endurance constitutes a crucial means by which one can corroborate one's understanding.
Standing.
Understanding. One standing, yes, one standing, one's point. Thank you. And here the observers seem to be outside of the process. When I read this, I was thinking, you are situated somewhere outside of the text. You're not participatory. You have a standing. You have a position. And you can look at the text somehow without involving in it. Once more, it's this dividing idea that one is the object, the Bible here, and the other one is the subject, you. And you have a certain position. You can be of that Bible school, or you can be a conservative, you can be not so scholared or less scholared or more scholared. It's a standing. He puts himself or any interpreter outside and thereby already creating a left hemisphere distance. You understand rather in the right way by entering to the text, taking it in, not distance yourself. Once more, it's the idea of the Jacques Monod-like laboratory assistant putting an atom of the Bible under the microscope or into the oscilloscope, or why not the X-ray machine, to see this words, exactly these three phrases had an origin already in Jericho. No, reality is global, and that goes especially for these things. Newtonian understanding or Cartesian understanding is no understanding at all, but is most possibly some sort of standing without having the under. Gilchrist, I think, you can correct me, call that a grasping way of understanding. You grasp something. Literally, you strain yourself. You're serious. There's very little humor here. Humor invites for understanding, whereas seriousness makes this distance. Makes for distance, makes for borders, frontiers, aggressiveness, and either patience. It's not encompassing, bringing the whole thing in at once, the whole of the Bible, and the Bible and its tradition, and the Bible and its liturgy, tradition, history, and so forth, which is global, and the whole world. Kalle Lundahl, please come and join.
Thank you. So we have in the previous lectures, when we went through this paper by Kelhoffer, commented on the word martus, which which is a false friend according to Kelhoffer. Martus would, according to Kelhoffer, mean a witness, but it cannot have the English word of martyr. You remember it, Hans, of course.
Yes, yeah, I do, yeah.
Of course. But here we have actually a phrase that undermines that dichotomy. Unlike both Jesus and Antipas, they receive the designation martyrs, inasmuch as they give testimony that additionally leads to their death. Or I ask myself if the word additionally is actually not the wrong word. As if martyrs only means giving testimony and not only also the thing that actually leads to one's death.
Yeah.
So the death is kind of, in Derridean terms, it would be like a supplement.
Oh yeah.
In this case, they happen to die,
Yeah.
but that's really not the meaning of martyrs, according to Kelhoffer. Only additionally, they happen to die, but you remember, reader, martyrs means only witness.
Yeah, and it's also very odd that he atomized the Bible, picks one word out of the context of the whole Bible, and sort of try to do the scientist thing. Feyerabend calls this imitations of science by scholars, which is a very modern thing. Making an ape of yourself. You're aping what you think works in a certain way. It should be read as a whole, and then, of course, the word martyrs will have its meaning by then, which is most definitely polysemic and fluctuating from the perspective of an atomic view.
Let me see. I also I did like this. I don't know if I should like this, but likewise, once again, vengeance arrives in the form of great earthquake. John seems to anticipate a conversion of some people as a result of the earthquake. So bad news is good news for Christians.
Oh yeah.
Let me see, there was an interesting footnote, if I can find it. Yes, actually, I would try to read this, try to find this reference to James Murray, the urban earthquake imagery and divine judgment in John's Apocalypse. I think it could be interesting to read sometime in the future. But speaking of earthquakes, let me see. Oh no, actually, let me see here. One last thing. This about persecution. John clearly envisions a worldwide persecution of the Christians in which captivity, death, or both are near certainty. And so let's say that John was not a real prophet. How would he then know about persecution? Was it a false perception, so to say, to use Kelhoffer's terminology? But if he were a true prophet, then he could see the Christians would have word with persecution. Another possibility, if you're a historian, and Kelhoffer is perhaps in this category as well, then you have already persecution. You have already persecution. For perhaps launched by Domitian, Nero. although the sources are ambiguous on this subject. So it's a problem, I think, for most theologians and historians. So how do you interpret this worldwide persecution?
I also come to think of what we said previously. This broadened my understanding, but someone wrote that the revelation was unkind, uncompassionate, and something like that. It was like 20 lectures ago. I don't know if you remember. And that person seemed to take out revelation out of the Bible, atomize it, and just read John or the Revelation as a separate thing from the rest of the Bible. And saying that revelation is this, and it's no longer global, it's local, and you only read this, and you take it out, you cut it out, you make sharp distinctions. It's like, this can be cut out of the Bible. The Bible is a whole.
Yes. Niels Bohr said that quantum physics would shock you. And I need that we need revelation to shock people. Otherwise there will be no repentance. We need to shake people to take course. We need a tyrant. God is a lion as well.
Yes, indeed, not only a lamb.
Indeed.
He's both at the same time.
Indeed.
Roar, bad.
And yes, indeed, we should make a kind of superposition of the roar and the lamb.
Yeah.
We imitate the roar. There's in superposition.
Yeah, definitely. Very good.
But let's end there. No, please.
Yeah, and as you say, I like also you said the superposition is quite real. In a way, it's even more real than the explicit things. So the roar and the ba in the superposition is maybe the most important. And that we cannot divide. We cannot divide the superposition. We can't even name it or divide it or, so to say, conquer it, conceptualize it. But we need it for the concepts. This is where the concept stems from. This is where you get the roar, and the ba. Sure, yeah, let's end there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kalle Lundahl. Thank you, everyone, for participating or looking into the video. Have a very pleasant morning, day, night, or evening, wherever you are. Bye-bye. Bye.